everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I'm Lauren, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I earned over $13,000 in just 6 months by flipping furniture. For the first flip of 2024, I took this mid-century modern set of furniture and customized it for a client. I got to work by cleaning the set with Lily Moon's furniture cleaner to get all of the dust and grime off of the surface as well as the insides. I made some quick repairs on the drawer slides, as well as some deeper scratches and missing veneers on the bodies of the dresser. Then I scuff sanded everything so that the paint would really adhere well. I used my 3x4 electric ray sander. My client wanted to lift the pieces off of the ground just a tad bit more than they were before, so I recreated the current bases using slightly larger pieces of wood. I used red oak wood so that it was really strong. Then I masked off all the drawers with tape and plastic, and I primed them with Dixie Belle's Boss. That brought some more areas out that needed to be wood filled, so I filled those up and sanded that down. And then next I used Dixie Belle's cotton for the final coats of this paint job. Then I sprayed a top coat with my Wagner Flexio 5000 and put some gold gilding wax around the edges where the drawers get pulled in and out. I staged this up, and here's the final result. I think that just spraying this white paint with some gold accent really elevated the look of these pieces, and my client was super happy bringing them all the way to San Antonio to fit in their new house. I bought that set for just $100, and then I invested $250 into the materials of the project and sold it for a total of $1,400, giving me a total profit of $1,050. Next, I flipped this mid-century modern dresser that I got for $25 from a friend that was in an abandoned house. I removed all of the hardware and took out the drawers, not forgetting to label them, and then I gave this piece a really good clean. There were lots of cobwebs and lots of spider eggs, but once that all got cleaned, I removed the base so that I could work on it separately from the body of the piece. I did a little bit more cleaning because, like I said, this piece was nasty. Once everything was nice and clean, I took my Surf Prep sander and I sanded down the edges with a 120 grit to scuff up the surface for a really good adhesion from the primer. I also did this with the drawer fronts, but instead of just scuff sanding, I actually sanded down all the way to the raw wood so that I could stain them later. There were a few areas on the body of the dresser that needed to be repaired with Bondo, and once that had hardened up, I was able to sand that back and prime with bin shellac-based primer and a foam roller. While the primer was drying, I went ahead and stained the base of the dresser as well as the drawer fronts to make sure everything looked consistent. Next, I lightly sanded the primer and sprayed one coat of Starless Nights by Lily Moon paint onto the body of the piece. I did a little bit more sanding on the door so that I could get that stain to look just right. Then I cleaned up the original hardware and did a few touch-ups on the body of the dresser, and I reattached the base to the bottom of the piece. I screwed in all of the original hardware, and then we had a final look that I was absolutely in love with. I think that it went from old and dingy with a lot of potential to a really classic and nice looking piece of furniture. I spent $25 on the piece of furniture itself and then invested $75 into the materials. This was for a client and I ended up charging them $800 for the whole project, giving me a total profit of $700. Next, I grabbed this vintage Drexel, pretty worn out piece of furniture. I had been waiting to do this piece for some time, so I was super excited to get to work on it. I went ahead and cleaned everything with some Lily Moon furniture cleaner, and it's the best because it doesn't require you to rinse off, which saves a little bit of time in the end. Next, I sanded down the top because the finish was completely failing, and then I scuff sanded the remainder of the body of the dresser and the drawer fronts. This was my first time trying out this Bin Advanced, which is a synthetic shellac. Instead of being oil-based or shellac-based, it's actually water-based, but it has the same properties and does the same job as regular Bin shellac-based primer, but I'm able to put it through my sprayer and it's a much easier cleanup. I taped everything off and sprayed 2 coats of the primer that I had gotten tinted in gray. Between coats of primer, I used the Bondo glazing putty to fill in a lot of the wood grain that was popping through from the failing finish previously. I also decided to take some Bondo and fill in a little crack at the top so that it would just be one smooth top. Then I took the color Acadia by Dixie Belle in their Silk Mineral line, and I sprayed 2 generous coats of that with my Wagner Flexio 5000 sprayer. This paint went on flawlessly and the color was excellent. Then I took the original hardware and applied some bronze gilding wax to bring it back to life a little bit. I lined all of the drawers with this pretty leafy peel and stick wallpaper, and then I removed all the tape and put the drawers back in. To reattach the hardware, and here's the final result. This piece turned out so great. It's such a high quality and heavy piece of furniture, but it did sit on the market for several months until it ended up selling for $750. I originally purchased it for $50, spent about $80 in materials, giving me a total profit of $620. This 10-drawer pine dresser is next up for 2024. I got started by removing all of the hardware, and then I cleaned everything with a degreasing cleaner so that I got all the dirt and grime off of the surface, as well as the inside of the dresser. I took my Surf Prep sander and scuff sanded the drawers and the body of the dresser. But on the top 4 drawers, I went ahead and sanded it down to raw wood so that I could do a paint wash later on. I I took the same synthetic shellac-based primer and applied a couple of coats to the entire piece. Then there were a few areas where I needed to refill in with some Bondo, so I did that between coats of primer. Then I was trying to use up some of my paints and I didn't think I had enough of just one color, so I decided to do my favorite thing ever, which is to make a custom color. So I used Lily Moon Paint's Ivory Coast and Ironstone to create this beautiful grayish color. I filtered it through my strainer and then I sprayed on a couple of coats to the entire dresser. I like to spray with the drawers in, and sometimes that means that I'll need to pull them out a little bit to do some touch-ups around the edges once I have sprayed the whole piece. I decided to try using the original knobs, and I ordered some gold gilding wax to put on these simple knobs. I really liked the way that it looked, but on the final piece I wasn't so sure. Next, I did a paint wash on the top 4 drawers like I talked about just a minute ago. Then I did a top coat on just these 4 drawers since the actual paint does have a top coat built into it. I didn't need to do the entire thing. I reinstalled the hardware and here's the final result. I really like the way that this turned out, and I think that it was very modernized and classy, and I'm so glad that I was able to take that yellow pine color and turn it into this gorgeous neutral piece of furniture. I actually had a family friend reach out about this piece of furniture when they saw it listed on Facebook Marketplace. They ended up purchasing it for their daughter for $700, and I originally spent $100 on the piece, about $75 worth of materials, giving me a total profit of $525. The next flip of 2024 was sort of a non-conventional flip for me. I found this gorgeous leather couch at a thrift store for just $60, and it was green. I could not get myself to leave it at the thrift store, so I grabbed it, and I knew that it would take a specific buyer, but I had high hopes that this thing was gonna sell. It just needed a little bit of love. First, I cleaned it off, and then I vacuumed out all the crevices, and I gave the leather a drink. I went ahead and applied a furniture salve to the entire couch a couple of times. And once it was all dry and looking a lot better, I staged it nicely on our staging wall and listed it on Facebook Marketplace for $350. Then about a week or two later, I ended up lowering the price to $200 because honestly, I just wanted to get this out of the shop, and it ended up selling pretty quickly after that. But we did deliver it for an extra cost of $130.
Absolutely never again. You could give me all the money in the world to do that. That was the most ludicrous thing that we've ever done.
So we ended up with a total profit of $250 on this couch, but I'm not sure it was worth it due to us having to carry it up 8 flights of stairs. So next time we'll definitely be thinking on if we want to endure that awful pain that it was.
Not worth it, never doing it again.
We've definitely learned our lesson and have been charging a bit more for delivery now that we went through that awful experience. Next up is this cute little French provincial end table that was claimed from my inventory here at the store. This sold to the same lady that bought the Barbie pink dresser for her granddaughter. I removed the single piece of hardware and then I cleaned the entire piece and scuff sanded with a 120 grit because the surface was super glossy and I needed to rough it up a little bit in order for that paint to adhere really well. Because of the finish of the original piece, I wasn't worried about bleed through, and the paint that I had used was a bonding primer as well. So I did 3 quick coats of the silk paint and then took some gold gilding wax and freshened up the piece of hardware. And then here's the final results. Nothing too crazy, but just a fun little quick flip. I spent $0 on this piece because it actually came with a dresser that I flipped in the past, and the materials cost me about $30. I sold it for $100, which gave me a total profit of $70 on this flip. But this was a great beginner project, so if you're looking to get started in furniture flipping, obviously the prices and the profits aren't going to be as high when you first start out, but you're going to be able to work your way up to the profits that you see me getting. But everyone's got to start somewhere, so to me, $70 profit on like an hour of work was pretty substantial, and I think that it was totally worth it. Next is another 3-piece set that got claimed from my inventory here at the shop. This couple was actually coming into the shop for another set that I had for sale, which ended up selling to another customer right in front of their face. So they decided to customize this set instead. I removed all of the hardware and I set it aside because I was just going to reattach it once the finish was all done. Then after all the hardware was removed, I cleaned everything with simple green to get the dust and dirt off of the surface of the piece of furniture. Next, I took my Surf Prep sander with a 120 grit and sanded the tops and the bodies and the drawers of all of the pieces so that the primer could adhere really well. In the meantime, I kind of scratched up the top, so I had to fill it in with some Bondo. But after I fixed that, I got some tape taped off the drawers so that there would be no overspray, and then I primed it using my Wagner Flexio 5000 and a stain blocking primer. This couple really liked one of the custom colors that I had created with the ivory and the ironstone. So luckily I remembered my recipe and I recreated that color with the same colors for them on this set. I sprayed 2 coats of each on all 3 pieces, and I really like to sand in between the coats so that it was a really smooth finish. So I did that before my second coat. Then I did some touch-ups on the edges of the drawers with my zebra brushes and reattached all of the hardware. Here's the old outdated set, and here is the nice, fresh, and clean look that these pieces have now. There was nothing really too wrong with these pieces, but they definitely, color-wise, were a bit outdated, and I think that this new color really brightened them up a lot. The couple really enjoyed the new look of the pieces and said that this was their first bedroom set that they had had to themselves for the extent of their marriage, so that was kind of cool to be able to provide that for them. I had spent $150 on this set originally, and then invested about $75 in materials, sold it to them for $700, and then gave me a total profit of $475. Okay, now it's time for probably one of my favorite, if not my top favorite projects so far of 2024. This is the vintage Drexel campaign style 4-piece set of furniture. I probably overpaid for it and paid $500, but in the end, I think it was totally worth it. I removed all of the hardware and cleaned using Lily Moon's furniture prep cleaner, and then I removed all the drawers and labeled them so I knew exactly where to put them back at the end. I made some of the slight repairs that were needed, and then I got to work by sanding down the tops. I was going for a raw wood look on the tops so that it could be like a dipped furniture set. So the paint would be on the bottom half and the raw wood would be on the top half. I scuff sanded the remaining parts of each piece for good adherence of the primer. Then on the tops, I did a quick paint wash with a beige colored paint, and this is where everything went wrong. And I did a coat of stain and I absolutely hated it, so I sanded it all down again, and I did another paint wash and I skipped the stain this time, and then I liked it a lot better. Then I wrapped up all the tops with plastic and tape so that I could paint the bottom of each piece of furniture. Next, I primed with Wise Owl's stain blocking primer and I let those dry. While everything was drying, I created bases for all 4 pieces, and then I sprayed another coat of primer on the pieces. Then I chose the color Weather Vane by Wise Owl, which is a 1-hour enamel, and the paint just dries to a super hard and durable finish after just 24 hours. I removed all of the plastic from each piece and then reinstalled the new bases so that we could elevate them off the ground just a little bit and give them a bit more of a modern look. Then I spent 2 hours cleaning up the original hardware with Barkeeper's Friend and a steel wool, and it ended up being stunning. Then I did some top coat on the parts with the raw wood, reinstalled the hardware, and here are the final results. Exactly why this is one of my favorite transformations of the year so far. It went from kind of old and had that outdated golden oak look, and then here we are with a much more brighter, modernized look on this still really great quality furniture. I listed this set for $1,950 and then ended up selling it for full price just 3 weeks later, and then ended up charging a delivery fee of $250. So after spending $500 on the original set, $325 in materials, and selling it for a total of $2,200, I was left with a total profit of $1,375. Next, we have this pretty beefy 12-drawer dresser that was all solid wood and had great bones, but I just wanted to change up the color and the original hardware. So I got started by removing all of that hardware and setting it aside, and then cleaned everything. I removed the drawers, and it proved to be a little bit challenging, but once I got the hang of it and getting those drawer stoppers out, I was able to move the little drawer holders, and everything came out pretty easily. This dresser was pretty glossy, so I wanted to really give it a good scuff sand, because if it's too glossy, then your primer and your paint won't adhere to the surface well. After I scuff sanded the entire dresser, I wiped back the dust with Lily Moon Paint Furniture Prep Cleaner, and then I decided to take an extra step of insurance and sprayed on a bonding primer that's actually clear, but this will ensure that my paint is really going to adhere to the surface for a long time to come. Then I loaded up my spray gun with the color Anchor, which is a true black color, and then I put all the drawers in and taped them off to protect from overspray. Once I sprayed 2 coats of black paint on the dresser, I lined the drawers with some peel and stick wallpaper, and then I decided to add a top coat so that I could change the sheen and add a little bit more protection. So instead of a matte top coat finish, which is what the silk paint has, this gave it a satin top coat finish. Then I added the drawers back in and did one final coat of top coat, and I added on the new hardware. I really love these antique brass knobs, and I feel like they are just so timeless, and they complemented the black really, really well. I sold this piece after just a week or two of it being listed on Facebook Marketplace for $900, $925 that is, and after spending $100 on the piece itself and $150 in materials, that gave me a total profit of $675. All right, I know I said that the vintage Drexel set was one of my favorites, but I also had a really great time working on this 4-piece French provincial set as well. If you've been here a while, you know that French provincial is one of my personal favorite styles of furniture, and it just really looks good in any color. I found this set at a thrift store for $245, which is a steal in my eyes for this 4-piece set, and I brought it home all the way from Des Moines, Iowa. It didn't take me long to get to work on it. I removed all of the French provincial hardware, which I set aside because of course I'm going to be reinstalling it later. Then I cleaned with Lily Moon's furniture prep cleaner, and I removed all of the drawers, making sure to label them, of course. I decided to sand the tops to raw wood all the way, which did take a little bit longer than I was anticipating because of all the curvature of the edges that I did not want to compromise while sanding. But with a combination of my Surf Prep home abrasive pads and my little detail sanders, I got the job done within a few hours. I kept on sanding and ended up scuff sanding all of the drawers and the bodies of the pieces so that the primer would adhere. You guys know the drill by now, and I went ahead and taped off the drawers and the tops of the pieces so that I wouldn't get any paint where I didn't want any paint. I also made a couple of repairs using Bondo and sanded that after it was all hardened. Next, I took some primer and sprayed all of the surfaces to block in any wood tannins from popping through. I took a fine sandpaper and knocked back any of the texture that was created on the top of the primer as it dried, and then I took the color French Linen by Dixie Belle and sprayed all of the pieces with my Wagner Flexio 5000. After 2 coats were on, I took off the plastic from the tops of the pieces and I did a quick paint wash with the French Linen color. We were still really able to see the wood grain really well, but it was also complementing because it was made with the same color as the bodies of the pieces. Next, since this was chalk paint, it did not have any built-in top coat. So I took Dixie Belle's satin clear coat and I sprayed on a couple of coats for full protection. I reinstalled the original hardware after wiping them clean, and then here's the final result. I am absolutely in love with this set, and I just think it's so classic and modern now, and it's sold to one of our viewers after she watched the original video. She emailed us asking us if we could come and deliver it 4.5 hours away. It sold to her for $2,250 and a delivery fee of $1,150 for a 9-hour round trip drop off. So after spending $245 on the set, $155 in materials, that gives us a total profit before we take into account the gas money of $3,000. Up next, we have this really outdated china hutch that was a cherry finish and it just needed to go. My client asked me to remove the doors from the outside, so I had to do a little bit of deconstruction, but after figuring all that out, I was able to fill it in with some Bondo. I removed the backing so that I could work on it just a little bit easier, and then I got to cleaning with Lily Moon Paint's Furniture Prep Cleaner. And I removed all of the hardware and all of the doors below as well. I scuff sanded with a 120 grit all over the surface, and I used my foam abrasive pad to get around the curved edges as well. This is when I used the Bondo to fill in any imperfections, and then I continued sanding and sanded back all of the Bondo as well. Next, I wiped back all of the dust and got to spraying the clear bonding primer. This was just to ensure that my paint would really adhere well. Next, I sanded the backer board and painted the piece in the color Anchor by Dixie Belle Silk Paint. The silk mineral paint doesn't require a top coat, and it does have a matte finish, which is what my client wanted, so that was a perfect match. I sanded one time in between coats for a really smooth finish, and then I did a second coat on the entire unit. I did a quick paint wash over the backboard and sprayed the hinges with some black spray paint, top coated the backer board, and started to reassemble everything. I do love a little pop of fun in the insides of the drawers, so I put some peel and stick wallpaper in there and then reinstalled the backer board on the brand new hardware and put it all together. And here's the final result. My client absolutely loved, and she will be putting it in her new dining room to match her newly updated dining table and chairs. She'll be putting the shelves in later down the road, or she probably already has done that now, but it was a really great transformation, and I ended up charging her $1,250 and giving me a total profit of $1,115 after I spent $135 in materials. The next set I got on Facebook Marketplace about a year ago, and I paid $300 for it. It was a long dresser and 2 nightstands. This is all completely solid wood and not made of any particle board or MDF, so I knew I had a great set on my hands. I started out by removing all of the hardware and labeling the drawers as I removed them. There were a lot of drawers, so it was really important for me to label them so I knew exactly where they went back later on. Next, I cleaned my furniture with some furniture prep cleaner and continued labeling all of the drawers. After that, I took my Surf Prep sander and started stripping back the top of the dresser. I wanted to see how long it would take with just my sander alone and no stripper, because I was planning to do this to all 3 pieces and all of the drawers and on the sides. Basically, we were going down to raw wood on the entire surface of each and every piece. This did take me quite a while, but I was just content with doing it with my sander only. And I was full of sanding dust at the end, but in my opinion, the end result of this was just totally worth it. I took some Fusion Mineral Paint Algonquin and I mixed it up with some water, and then I did a paint wash over the top of the existing wood. I'm pretty sure that it was poplar wood, so it really didn't take the paint wash as well as I would have liked it to. After doing a paint wash on several of the surfaces, I decided to start over and sand everything back to the raw wood again and bleach all of my drawers and the bodies of each piece so that I could start with a more even toned finish. This did take some extra time, but it was totally worth it in the end. With this wood bleach, you apply part A and then wait 5 or 10 minutes until you apply part B. Then at the end of the day or the next day, you're able to sand it all back and then apply whatever finish you are going for. For me, I applied the paint wash again. This time things were much more even and it was looking great. I didn't like the little detail at the top of the dresser with the leaves, And so I took this decorative trim that I got at the hardware store and cut it to size and attached it with some brad nails and some wood glue. I did the same paint wash method that I did on the whole furniture set on that, so it blended right in. Next, for protection, since it was only a paint wash, I grabbed my Wagner Flexio 5000 and loaded it up with some top coat so that we could protect the finish and the wood. Then I added on all of the new hardware, which is this antique brass knob, and reinstalled the drawers and the doors. Just another look at them before, and here we are now. I think that this set was really elevated when I did the lighter color paint wash, or basically a stain, on this set. This set sat on the market a little bit longer than I had anticipated originally, and I actually ended up changing out the antique brass knobs for some black knobs. That is when it ended up selling for $1,700, and after investing $480 between the cost of the actual set and the materials that I took to refinish it, we are left with a total profit of $1,220. This project was probably one of the most drastic makeovers of the years so far. We went to my client's house and picked up their existing furniture and loaded them all up into the truck and brought them back to the shop. This was one of the heaviest sets that we have ever lifted, but we got it done. I removed all of the old and outdated hardware and donated it to a thrift store because I would not be putting it back on. Then I got to cleaning my furniture with the furniture prep cleaner, and this was a really important step because I wanted to make sure that any of the waxes or dirt and grime got washed off of the surfaces. I also vacuumed on the insides of the dressers to make sure they got all that dust out of there that could have been accumulating for who knows how long. I was going for the look that their flooring had in their house, so I had a little sample piece that I was going to be able to match my paint wash to later down the road. I started by scuff sanding all of the surface with my Surf Prep sander. And then I started a paint wash on the top of the dresser and then continued doing the paint wash around the whole entire dresser. This just consisted of Fusion Mineral Paint Algonquin and a little bit of water. I brushed it onto the piece and then wiped back any excess. There were some ghosting marks from the old hardware, so I did have to bleach the drawers just a little bit to get rid of that ghosting line. Once the bleach was dry, I sanded it back and the ghosting lines went away. Then I was able to do a quick paint wash over the tops of the ghosting lines on the drawers and then everywhere else on both of the nightstands and the tall dresser as well. The way that I did this finish was the first time that I had ever attempted doing a paint wash over an existing finish, and I really liked the way that it turned out. I think that it cut down a lot on some of the work that could have been done if I would have stripped back the existing finish, but it didn't need it on this set because it went from light to dark. Last, I sprayed on the top coat with my Wagner Flexio 5000 for protection and then added on these new, more simple and modern black hardware. Once all the hardware was back on, we wrapped it up and took it back to their house. Here's a final look at the results. I really think that the updated color is perfect for the way that they have their entire house set up. It just is so much more cohesive, and I was able to get rid of that yellow tone in their original furniture and really bring out that more white oak tone instead, which really matched their floors throughout the house. I spent around $135 in materials, and I didn't obviously spend any money on the furniture since it was their original set. I charged them $2,000 for the full makeover as well as pickup and delivery, giving me a total profit of $1,865. And for the last project of the year so far, I picked up this cherry finish dresser. I got it for just $50 on Facebook Marketplace, and it had really good bones, so I was excited to get to work on it. I removed all of the hardware and of course got rid of the bat wing poles because they're just so outdated. Then I cleaned everything with Simple Green to get all that grease and grime out of the surface and removed all the drawers to label them so I know exactly where to put them back later on. Next, I filled all the hardware holes with some Bondo and then began scuff sanding the entire surface of the dresser and all of the drawers. For this, I used my Surf Prep sander and a 120 grit sandpaper to really get through that glossy finish and make sure that my paint was ready to adhere. Then I taped and papered off all of the drawers so that my primer and paint would not get inside of the drawers. Next, I removed the existing base, and I had to use my circular saw to cut the framing off where the base was connected so that I could install a new base later on. Then I inserted the drawers back into the dresser and sprayed primer, which was the synthetic water-based primer. It really brought out some of the wood tannins, but we were able to fix that once I did coat number 2. All of the primer was drying when I went ahead and cut the pieces for my bases, and then After that, I went back and did the second coat of primer. Next, I painted with an enamel-based paint, which actually took 8 hours to dry until it was able to be recoated. So I did have to wait a little bit, and in the meantime, I went ahead and drilled some hardware holes, and then the next day, I sprayed coat number 2. Then I was able to put my base together with my Craig jig and some pocket hole screws, and I gave it a little bit of a stain so that we could really contrast nicely with that white. I attached the base to the dresser and then put all of the drawers back in and installed the hardware. Here is the before and here we are now. I love how this dresser turned out. I think that it was such a vast difference from that dark cherry finish to now the light, bright, and airier finish with the white paint. Including the cost of materials of this dresser, I spent $135 and then we sold it for $800, giving me a total profit of $665. It has been such a great year of flipping furniture so far. If my math is correct, I have profited $13,605 on 14 projects in just 6 months of 2024. I would say that that's an average of about $1,000 per project and a little over $2,000 per month just on flipping furniture. Of course, I've done more projects than just these, but these are the ones that I have done for profit to sell. If you're looking to get into furniture flipping as a full-time job or even a side hustle, be sure and check out some of the links down below in the description on how you can get started. Please remember that this video is solely about the profit of furniture and nothing to do with the other expenses of our business of FFT and the other revenue streams that we have of our business. My goal is to show you what furniture flipping can do for you, even if you are flipping from your garage, at home, or however you want to do it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to hear your comments down below on which project was your favorite so far of 2024. I know I shared mine with you guys. I'm curious to hear what your favorites are. We'll see you next week for another flip, and I'll see you on the flip side.